Okay, so this is of course Crofton Old Church. Now, I'm not sure if this is the main door, I'm not sure if there's a service going on. It's 10:38 in the morning, but we'll have a little look, we'll try. Unusual things. Good morning everyone, how are you doing? It's Paul here from Unusual Things. Now today I'm at Crofton Cemetery in Stubbington in Hampshire, and we've come today for a true crime files video to hear about the most haunting of stories. A woman called Ann Blackwood who was actually murdered in this cemetery. Now I know it's something that we very rarely hear of, someone being murdered in a cemetery, but she was murdered while she was visiting her son's final resting place, her son being Christopher. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the story. It's a very sad story, and in all of the sort of true crime and crime files videos that I've looked into before, I've never heard of a relative being murdered visiting their son or daughter. So I thought we should cover this story today, and if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free, it does not cost you a single penny, and of course hit the notification bell and you'll be notified when more videos come out. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the story, and I'm going to tell you about Anne, of course, and give you as much information as I can about what led up to her being murdered here in this cemetery while visiting her own son's grave. So this is a story of Martin Suter and Ann Blackwood, and they were once a married couple who shared tragedy 20 years earlier would eventually lead to a shocking murder carried out in the most haunting of places at their own son's grave, which is in this cemetery where we are today. Now, Martin Suter and Ann Blackwood were once husband and wife, and they lived in Leon-Solent in Hampshire, which is a very picturesque town overlooking the Solent, and it's a favourite spot for sailing enthusiasts. Together they had a son named Christopher, a bright teenager with a promising future, but in 2003, Christopher was just 15 years old when tragedy struck. He took his own life. Now, no parent can ever truly recover from the loss of a child, and for Martin and Anne, the pain was unbearable. Their marriage didn't survive the grief. By the following year, 2004, the couple had divorced. From then on, their paths separated completely, but Christopher's memory bound them forever. Each year, both parents would quietly visit his grave at Crofton Cemetery in Stubbington. It was a sacred place for remembrance. But in 2023, a scene of a brutal act of revenge. Fast forward to the 24th of July, 2023, the date that would have marked Christopher's 36th birthday. At around 10:30 a.m. in the morning, Martin Suter, now 68 years old, drove his Mazda MX-5 to Crofton Cemetery. He bought flowers, but he also bought something more sinister. Hidden in his possession was a large kitchen knife taken from his home. Prosecutors later told the court that Suter lay in wait for nearly 5 hours, anticipating that his ex-wife would come to the cemetery that day, as she always did, to visit their son's grave. At around 3:30 in the afternoon, Anne arrived by bicycle, carrying a pair of gardening scissors and a small bouquet of flowers. She had no idea of what was about to happen. As she approached the grave, Suter struck. He stabbed Anne in the back with a kitchen knife so violently that the blade snapped off, Then, in a shocking twist of cruelty, he grabbed the scissors that Anne had brought with her and used them to repeatedly stab her in the neck. The attack was so swift and brutal, pathologists later confirmed that Anne had no defence wounds. She likely never had the chance to react, either taken by surprise or completely overwhelmed. Moments later, at 3:39 p.m, Suter called the police and the emergency services. His voice was calm when he said the words, "I've just killed my ex-wife. I've just stabbed her to death." He told police that his life had been ruined by Anne and that he blamed her for their son's suicide. When officers arrived, they found Anne's body lying beside her son's grave. Nearby were her flowers, her scissors, and the broken blade of the knife. Suter didn't resist arrest. He later told his second wife over the phone what he had done, saying, "I know I'm going to prison. I may as well go for this." It was a chilling statement, one that prosecutors said revealed clear intent. Phone data showed that Suter had arrived in the cemetery that morning and stayed there for hours, confirming that this was not a spontaneous act of rage, but a premeditated murder. But this wasn't the first time Martin Suter had appeared before the court. In a separate case, heard in Bolton Crown Court, Suter had previously pleaded guilty to indecently assaulting a girl under at the age of 14 years, though he was cleared of 6 further charges. The conviction painted a disturbing picture of a man whose public image did not match his private behaviour. At the time of Anne's killing, Suter was already facing sentencing for that assault. In a conversation with his second wife, he admitted that he believed that he was going to prison anyway, suggesting that in his mind he had nothing else to lose. In May 2024, Martin Suter finally pleaded guilty to the murder of 71-year-old Ann Blackwood. However, the case did not end there. A Newton hearing was ordered, a special type of hearing used when a defendant pleads guilty but disputes key details that could affect sentencing. In this case, the court had to determine whether Suter brought the knife with him and whether he intended to kill Anne or simply cause her serious harm. Prosecutor Robert O'Sullivan KC told the court the defendant armed himself with a large kitchen knife from his home and took it with him to the cemetery, rightly anticipating that Ann Blackwood would visit her son's grave that day. Suter, however, refused to attend the hearing. He told prison officers he believed the process was inappropriate and that he had a moral right to trial by jury. The judge set sentencing for November 21st, 2024, with the outcome of the Newton hearing to be delivered earlier in the month. While the courtroom focused on the grim details of the murder, outside, Anne's family and community mourned the loss of a woman they described as loving, kind and full of life. At her funeral, more than 250 mourners gathered at Holyrood Church in Stubbington to celebrate her life. Her wicker coffin, surrounded by sunflowers, roses and lilies, was carried into the church as her daughter gave an emotional eulogy. Friends read poems, including one written by her late son Christopher. The hymns, Amazing Grace, Lord of the Dance, and Abide With Me, filled the church with quiet tears. Reverend Beth Yindle, who led the service, described it as a beautiful celebration of Anne's life, a service of thanksgiving for a woman deeply loved by her community. Anne had been enjoying her retirement, playing tennis, sailing, cycling, and spending time with friends. She was by all accounts happy and active, until her life was violently taken in the very place she went to honour her son. In the days following the murder, many in Leon Solent struggled to reconcile the image of Martin Suter they knew with the man accused of such horror. He had been a member of the Green Party since 1986, even standing several times as a local election candidate. In 2022, he ran for a seat on Gosport Borough Council. He was also involved in local church life and sailing circles. From the outside, he appeared to be a respectable, retired man, but beneath lay years of anger, resentment, and guilt that would eventually explode into violence. The murder of Ann Blackwood wasn't just a crime of passion or jealousy. It was the tragic end to two intertwined lives, both broken by the same devastating event. The death of their son, Christopher, 20 years earlier. For Anne's family, the loss of both mother and son had been almost too much to bear. In a statement released through Hampshire Constabulary, they said, her daughter, brothers, their families and all her friends are absolutely devastated. A loving, caring, kind-hearted mother and friend. Anne was enjoying her retirement with an active lifestyle full of joy, friendship and community. It's a heartbreaking reminder of how grief left unresolved can destroy more than one life. As the court prepares to deliver final sentencing, one thing remains clear. This was a tragedy years in the making. A man consumed by blame and bitterness took the life of the woman who had once shared his deepest love and greatest loss. And in doing so, he turned a place of remembrance into a scene of horror, forever linking the memory of their son to a second senseless death. In the end, justice may be served, but the victims are those left behind, mourning both the woman who died and the man she once called her husband. True crime isn't just about the darkness of human nature. It's about the lives lost and remembering the pain behind. Okay, right, we're going to see if we can get into this church first and have a look around, and then we'll go and look for Christopher's final resting place. Now, I'm not sure if Anne is buried here with him, but we will have a look around and see if we can find Anne's final resting place as well. Okay, so this is, of course, Crofton Old Church. Now, I'm not sure if this is the main door. I'm not sure if there's a service going on. It's 10:38 in the morning, but we'll have a little look. We'll try. Come in. Well, that was very unusual because they asked for my name and address in the book. Now, I know I don't have to give it, but out of respect, as I'm visiting, you know, I've put it down there. It's no harm to me. I'm walking around churches, you know, it's not like I'm out doing anything unusual, even though on unusual things. Right, let's go and look for Christopher's final resting place. And like I say, I'm not sure whether Anne is also buried with him, but we'll have a look. Now, I got a feeling it's probably not going to be here. I got a feeling it's going to be in the newer part, because these look like a lot of old headstones around in this churchyard. But I know you've had a bit of a look earlier on whilst I was narrating and giving you all the information, but I think the camera looks better on the scenery rather than me, so let's have a little look. Now, one thing I'm not sure of is whether Christopher's surname is the same as his father's, which was Souter, or his mother's, which was Blackwood. So I'm going to have to, and I don't know what the headstone looks like at all. Not one clue. So it's going to be a little bit of a... Camera went dark then. So it's going to be a little bit of a searching endeavour, shall we say. I like these old crosses like that, they're pretty cool. Look at this one here. Now, earlier on, I walked past a lady and she was on a radio, and that guy in there had a radio as well, like an old CB radio sort of thing, walkie-talkie, should we say. So I'm assuming that they're obviously all in touch with each other, which I find bizarre, really, for a cemetery. However, if that tragedy that happened... Why is there a wasp around me? You know, if that tragedy that happened here has put people on edge maybe, or made them a little bit more wary of people being in the cemetery, then I do understand. Right, so now we're going to have a look, and we've got to look for Christopher, and it's either going to be Souter or Blackwood. So I'll maybe forward some of this or pause it and have a look through, but we'll see, and we'll also see if we can see Anne as well, so we'll have a little look. Now this part seems like it's a real newer part of the cemetery, you know, whereas the other part just seems like it's an old churchyard. But it's very difficult to have a look sometimes. There's just so many staring at you, and people think that what I do is quite easy. Sometimes it's not. I can be in these places for a long time looking around. But what I tend to do first of all is just have a little bit of a glance through, and I'll just try and look through. Mainly the ones that are sort of like the first 3 or 4 rows, and then go back a bit. Now, if any of you have sat at home watching this and you said, Paul, you've just walked past it, obviously I won't know. You can write your message in there now, but I still won't know. Right, so look. Now I've seen a Christopher here, but his surname's Lovell. And it's the wrong date of birth, I think. There's a lot of dog walkers in here, which is good. Obviously it's a nice sort of chilled place. Lots of people come and walk their dogs. Okay, I have been looking around for well over an hour. It's been a long search, but I think I found it at long last. Now, luckily for me, the grave number was on Find a Grave, so I had to literally look on the back of lots of graves, because this one just really went. Okay, Christopher Ian Souter, 24th of July 1987, 10th of July 2003, in loving memory of a very special son and brother. Love you always. Requiescat in peace. Okay, so there's the final resting place of Christopher, bless you, who must have had a really tough time in life to take his own life so young. But what we've got to remember, and the reason why we came here today for the crime files, is because his poor mother, Anne, lost her life here, at this exact spot, taken by her ex-husband, Christopher's dad. So I don't know whether Anne is buried here with Christopher or not. They did have a wicker coffin, so I'm assuming she wasn't cremated, but they might not have just got around to putting the name on the headstone yet. But I'm looking from this point here, And you think Christopher's dad waited here for 5 hours. Big open terrain over there. Old cemetery, old church there. Very easy to hide. In the bushes along there, very easy to hide. Sneak up and do what he did. And do you know what? It's quite chilling, really. It's just, you know, you're standing here, or crouched here where a lady lost her life, Christopher's mother, because over 20 years later, Christopher's dad still blamed Anne. What, you know, what goes through someone's mind to hold a grudge for that long? And it's so sad, it's really sad. And like I said at the start, I've never encountered a murder happening at the cemetery of someone visiting their own son's final resting place. So there's the final resting place there of Christopher, and bless you. Like I said, I don't know where his mum is buried. If she's buried with him or not, I don't know. Just lost for words, really. It's one of those ones where you're thinking, how can his dad be so callous, you know? But then again, it goes to show, when I've read out the information earlier on, what his dad was being charged for, or had been charged for in court. Why was he on bail if he'd been done for touching a kid? Yeah. Anyway, so that poor family, not only did they lose Christopher at a young age through his own demons and his own battles, taking his own life, but they then lose his mother due to his selfish father's actions. Well, thank you as always for joining me on Unusual Things, and one for the crime files, true crime. If you like the video today, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free, it does not cost you a single penny. Hit that notification bell and you'll be notified when more videos come out. And I will see you all on the next one. Take it easy.